guys, this is Becca. Welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a really short video on my curriculum choices for science and nature study. I completely left it out of the last video that I did, which was all of my curriculum choices for the boys this year. I had it on the table during the video and it just completely slipped my mind until I got a comment on that video from a subscriber that was asking me what we did for nature study. And then I realized that I didn't mention any of that in that video. So this is just a really brief video on what we use this year for nature study and science. And then I'm going to briefly mention a couple of more things that we've done the last couple of years that you might enjoy if you have younger kiddos, because they've been amazing and it's some of my favorite books and some of my favorite things that we've done. So I will get right to it. I'll start with nature study and nature journaling. This is what we're using this year. I believe this is the first year that Simply Charlotte Mason has put this out, and it's journaling a year in nature, and it's a notebook that's broken up into seasons, and on every page of each season there are different things that she mentions at the top: trees, insects, birds, animals, shrubs and flowers. There's a section that you can observe the moon and stars. One of the boys' favorite things has been jotting down what the weather's like for 7 days. So I'll show you Isaiah's here. So here's that section. This is actually in all of them. So this is in every season. So you just monitor the weather. This is day 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and then he has one more day to observe the weather. So this has been kind of fun because we live in Texas and the weather kind of changes every other day. We do this on Mondays and Wednesdays after typically we do our math. So I have a bookshelf here in the schoolroom that has all of their science stuff. I keep these there. They'll grab these. They're matte pencils or markers or whatever they want to use that day. And I give them the freedom to choose which of the things they want to go outside and draw and sketch. I don't have anything set in stone, just whatever they happen to want to observe and look at that day, I'm totally fine with. On this particular day, Elijah sketched on one of the tree pages. So this is a little tree we have in the backyard. I just, like I said, give them the freedom to just flip through the pages and see what they might want to draw or diagram or sketch. We recently had a yellow jacket nest fall off the corner of the back of our house. And so that was on the ground there, and they got to sketch that and take a look at it. So that was really neat for them. This year, Isaiah, our oldest son, is in the 6th grade. And up to this point, we've just done a lot of nature walks and nature study and nature journaling. We've read lots of living books. So I thought this year would be great to introduce like an official science curriculum. I've been reading about and looking at the Apologia curriculum probably for the last 2 or 3 years. Decided that I felt, this year was a great year to introduce that. So I chose Apologia, Exploring Creation with Human Anatomy and Physiology. So this is my book. I'll open up to the lesson we're doing. Each lesson is broken down into 4 parts and takes usually about 45 minutes to an hour to work through. So there's a certain reading that I do, and then at some point during the lesson, it'll just give me a little note to stop reading, ask the kiddos to narrate back to me what that section was about or something that they've learned or, a fun fact. And then actually every lesson, maybe every page, there's a little box that says try this, and it's an experiment. Some of them involve, things in the kitchen. Some of them involve things that you might need to get, so you might want to read ahead a little bit. Some of them involve just maybe a ruler or your body looking at different things. So I really enjoyed that because it's just a good combination of listening and then trying something. And then also they have this notebook, notebooking journal. This is Isaiah's. So for each lesson, I'll just have them flip open to, whatever lesson that is. So for example, on lesson 1, we opened up and we were doing cell anatomy. So as I was reading about the cell, my teacher book would prompt me to have them start drawing a cell. There's a word bank at the bottom, so they were able to spell things correctly and label them correctly. And then on the page next to it was, what do you remember? So they're asking questions about the lesson. Boys fill that in. There's also a crossword. That was really good for kind of going back over everything we learned, the vocabulary. And then there's also a section at the end of each lesson for copy work. So I am loving this. I would highly recommend Apologia. They don't just offer anatomy and physiology. They offer zoology and botany and biology and physical science. They also do astronomy, probably a few more that I'm missing, but we'll probably keep with Apologia for a while because I really love it. Okay guys, so that's the curriculum for science that we're doing this year is Apologia, anatomy, and physiology. The next thing I want to show you is something that we did last year, and it's one of my favorite things that we've done for science in homeschooling thus far. A friend of mine loves children's books, and she's actually someone that gave me my big love for children's literature. But she had mentioned to me one time Thornton Burgess and all of his books that he's written for children. All of them are living books. They are written so well. The stories are amazing. I had this, and I happened to be on Simply Charlotte Mason website looking for something else, I think, in curriculum. And I happened to notice in their science section that they had this handbook. It's learning about birds, and it uses the Burgess Bird Book for children. So of course I had to buy it because I already had the Burgess Bird Book for children. And then there was one additional supplemental book that she recommends with it that happens to be one of my favorite books that we've read in homeschooling, and that is Blackie the Crow, and this one's also by Thornton Burgess. So this one is set up similarly to other lesson plan books that she has. So you just open up to lesson 1. She tells you the materials that you need for that lesson. So in this particular lesson, we needed the Burgess Bird Book for children. We needed the bird guide, which we live in Texas, so the bird field guide for Texas birds. And then there's also a 50 Favorite Birds coloring book by Lisa Bonfort. So we got this, very inexpensive, on Amazon. And then we needed crayons or colored pencils. And then she just asks us to read chapter 1 in the Burgess Bird Book for children. And then there's also, we looked up the bird that we actually read about in chapter 1 in the field guide. The boys found that. And then they colored that bird that we learned about. So if you open this up, here are some colored pictures of birds. And then in the back, it shows some more. Here's one that Isaiah colored last year. I highly recommend all of Thornton Burgess's books. I highly recommend the Learning About Birds handbook and study that we did. It was great. And then I also want to mention another Burgess book that we read. I believe we read this one our first or second year in homeschooling. It's a little bit thicker, and so I think it probably took us the majority of the year to read this. I would read one chapter a few times a week. You get so attached to the characters in this book. It's absolutely precious. I love it. Anytime you see a Thornton Burgess book, pick it up because they are little gems. And then the last thing that I want to show you is some other living books that we read our first year in homeschooling. And they're by an author named Clara Pearson. And again, these are living books. And these are the 3 that we read. Among the Night People, so nocturnal animals, Among the Forest People, and then my personal favorite from that year was Among the Pond People. So any possible animal or creature that you can imagine living in and around a pond, you read about their families and their interaction with each other. Love these books.